Thank you for joining everybody that's joined so far. I'm going to hand you over to the Probe Group CEO, Andrew Hume.
Thanks, Mike. Good afternoon, everybody. Andrew Hume here. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to share this very exciting innovation with you, born out of the adversity of COVID. Mike and the team, to solve a problem at the beginning of the COVID situation, came up with this brilliant idea and have now brought it to market for execution. A key part of our strategy, and which I'll just quickly provide an update on before we unleash Mike. Our mission as a business, we're on a mission to build out the world's best tech-powered, digitally enabled customer management or customer experience service provider. And at the heart of the business is an absolute commitment to automation, digitization. And to enable that, we've been investing very significantly into a CX consulting practice that designs future operating models and brings them to life through deploying all sorts of tools and solutions. What you're about to see is one of them. A few short years ago, when we embarked on this strategy, Probe was sort of 300-400 people. On the 1st of October, we're completing the next of our latest of our acquisitions, Stellar, and from that date, a couple of weeks away, we'll emerge as truly scaled Australian-owned customer management service provider, employing some 12,500 people across 5 countries, with the majority of those people here in Australia. We emerge as a truly scaled Australian employer, something we're very, very excited about, with operations across most states: Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland and Western Australia. So we've come a long way in a very short space of time. We've built for Australian business, we think, a highly capable, credible Australian service provider. We've got bigger and broader plans and we'll continue to work on those. And while we do that, hopefully we can encourage you to take interest in the Oration product. Mike, over to you. We look forward to seeing it in action.
Okay, so I've got 2 members of my team today. So Convey is the first thing to introduce. So Convey is a wholly owned subsidiary inside Probe. Our mission in life is to bring speech technology to life and provide customer experience into contact centers. You've got myself, Dr. Mike Bambrook, Convey CEO, and Mark Francis, our business consulting manager, on the call today. We're going to take you through a demonstration. So the first thing for me to introduce for you is Oration. What is it? Oration is a business-focused, AI-driven tool that enables contact center to own its own customer experience. It provides full flexibility for the contact center manager to create, maintain, and look after all aspects that would normally require significant IT involvement. This does 2 things. Firstly, dramatically lowers costs, and probably more importantly, enables changes to be done absolutely real time and by the people that are actually at the coalface. What we're going to take you through today is a full demonstration of those capabilities. You can see them on your screen at the moment. As you work around those large boxes on there, you can see you're able to deliver calls through to the agent in a way where we can save time and improve agent engagement and empathy. You'll see how putting the verbatim, which is what the person said, onto the screen really brings it to life and enables those agents to take control. We'll show you how you can use call focusing to enhance and reinforce your training. We'll show you how you can use targeted banners to allow you to actually deflect calls from your call center, or possibly deflect them to a digital channel instead, so that you can use more cost-effective mechanisms. We'll also show you how you can use the system to drive adoption of self-service, which ultimately means that you've got less calls to have to deal with inside the call center. The really critical thing with Oration is it is a business-focused tool. It is not an IT toolkit. This is something that we've deployed it into some of our own call centers, major retailers, where we have the contact center manager is the person who is doing everything I'm going to demonstrate to you today. So without further ado, let's start moving forward. I thought the best place to start is just to imagine ourselves in a contact center. For those of you that are contact center managers out there, I'm sure by the time you get through these, you'll recognize it. Let's imagine We're 2 weeks away from the annual wine sale. What's going through your head? It's all about calls are going to skyrocket. I know I'm going to suddenly get a double in call volume. How am I going to handle them? I'm looking at the IVR. I've currently got a bunch of push button options. Knowing I've got this sale coming up, I'm probably going to want to change those. So I start thinking, well, could I have 3 extra options on there? Could I reverse the order? So I go to the IT department and I ask them, can we do that? And they say, go away and draw me a diagram. So I draw a diagram of what I want. I take it back to them and they turn around and say, yeah, we can get that stood up for you maybe in 2 weeks' time when we've got a change window. And then, of course, once we actually agree that we're going to have that change window, suddenly they come back and go, we're going to have to wait another week because it turns out the voice artist is on leave this week. I've had all of these things happen to me in real life, by the way. Ultimately, you know you've got to get 5 more agents onto the phone to handle this call volume. Imagine trying to do that when you've got to cross-skill them across every single thing that you've got to do in the call center, and you're probably only going to have them just for the period of the sale. Very difficult task. So my day's already kind of pretty pressured. And then just to top it all, imagine you look down at the newspaper and you say, oh no, they've recalled that Shiraz that we sent out. What are we going to do? We know that this afternoon we're going to have an absolute mass of calls coming into this call center. The final one on the side there is one of my favorites that any call center manager will probably get asked on a daily basis. You get that phone call from your boss. Hey, the board have just asked for a report on the top 10 reasons why people are calling us. Oh, and by the way, can you have it by the end of the day? All of these things are about how can you actually cope with configuring your call center to be able to handle all of these things that came out of the blue at you. They're very agile places. They are very dramatic change inside contact centers. What I'll now do is show you how Oration can tackle most of those issues and work through the features and show you how a contact center manager would actually deal with this. Hopefully for those of you that are contact center managers, that day resonated with you. So let's go into the demonstration. Bear with me while I just change screen. Okay. You should now be seeing a screen that says Oration by Convey. What you're looking at is the GUI, the graphical user interface, that the contact center manager or one of their team would utilize to completely configure everything to do with the caller experience inside the call center. What you can see on screen right now is a completely blank environment. We've configured very little, if anything, in there, other than the fact that there is a very first prompt here. You can see it highlighted on the screen at the moment. This is what the system is going to say when it picks up the phone. We're just going to make this a little bit more specific for this example. So I'm just going to change that and change it to the welcome to the wine store. How can I help you? Having made the change, I then tell the system to take it live. That's now live in the system. And what I'm going to do now is put a call in and pretend to be a customer. And you're going to see the call come through. You'll hear what I did. And then you'll see the call arrive here. This is a Genesys Cloud desktop. This is also fully available for Amazon Connect as well. Let's see what happens when I call the system.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
Can I buy a bottle of wine, please? Maybe a Shiraz.
Transferring you now.
Now, if you look at the blue box, you can see that the agent, as the call was given to them, was presented what I actually said to the open question at the start. So you can see, can I buy a bottle of wine, please? Maybe a Shiraz. Because we've presented through the full language that was said, the agent is now able to do something really quite amazing. They're able to greet that caller with, hi, great, yeah, let's have a look at what the Shirazes are we've got available. In most other call centers, they would have greeted that call with, "Hi, welcome to Wine Store. How can I help you?" Even though you'd already been through an IVR previously. By being able to take control of the call in that way, it gives you two benefits. Firstly, you're able to save between 15 and 30 seconds in time. Now that's all about taking control and removing having to ask the extra question, and also being able to guide the conversation right from the start. Second benefit is you're able to increase your empathy and engagement with the caller coming in. You can see how they are speaking to the system, and you can engage with them in the same way. That 15 to 30 seconds is something that we've done a full time and motion study on, where we took 50% of the calls through our system, 50% not through the system, and we measured the difference, like for like, during the course of an entire day within a major call center. That 15 to 30 seconds was absolutely a result of what you have just seen. That's a very simple example because we've not really configured anything yet. So let's see whether we can do rather more than that. How about we imagine that it was either the product recall or we know that we've run out of stock. Let's imagine that we've run out of stock. We don't want to tell every single person who calls into the call center that we've run out of stock. What we actually want to do is play that banner to just people who are asking for wine. So here we go. I'm going to find in here some examples of me saying, I'd like to buy a bottle of wine. Here we go, bottle of wine. And all I have to do as the contact center manager is click here. We'll create what we call an intent. And then I will add, what do I want to do when that happens? I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to not ask a question. I'm going to do a deflection. And all I'm going to do is say, very sorry, we are out of wine today. Please call tomorrow. Okay. Now, I also know that there are other things people might say other than just bottle of wine. They might also say all sorts of other things. I'm just going to tell it also wine. I will deploy that into the system. And now, when I call it, we'll go back over here. Actually, we'll leave it there. If I call it now,
Welcome to the Wine Store. How can I help you?
I want to know if you have any wine for sale.
Very sorry, we are out of wine today. Please call tomorrow. Goodbye.
So there's an example of the system doing a true deflection. It has told that caller, I'm sorry, we can't handle you. And it's taken the call, said, you can't talk to us. Now, obviously, that'd be a rare exception. Normally, you want to do rather better customer experience than that. And you would want to actually offer them to, would you like to do something or stay on the line and still talk to an agent? So the system allows you to do that. All we do is we change, again, we look at this intent, the wine intent, and we will change and edit the deflection block. In the deflection block, I can put something here, which is an offer. So I can say to them, we are out of wine. Would you like to get some random drink, some lemonade? Okay, I will apply it and deploy it. You can see how easy it is to actually make the changes, deploy them. There's a lot more here behind the scenes as well. There's full history and there's all that sort of management as well. The simple use is as we're doing here. Now, if we call it, it'll give me the option to carry on.
Welcome to the Wine Store. How can I help you?
I'd like some wine, please.
We are out of one. Would you like to get some lemonade?
Yes.
Transferring you now.
Call arrives in the call center, and the agent can see everything I've said. I'd like to get some wine, please. And then I've said yes to the follow-up question. That's a much better style of deflect, although it deflects less calls as a result of the fact that you're doing a better customer experience. Again, in our time and motion studies, we've found that putting one single banner can deflect between 1% and 5% of your calls, depending on the context. You can have any number of banners in here, and you can change them on an hourly, daily, weekly basis. There is no needing to go to an IT department to get them changed. So we've now deflected those calls. But what we could actually do is even potentially better, rather than actually saying we haven't got any. What about if we had a scenario where we have a bunch of agents who are available on our digital channel, and we know that we want them to be able to take the calls? Digital channel, as many of you will know, is typically more cost effective because you can interleave conversations and have one agent do multiple conversations. Let's have a look at how we would take those calls and take them through to a digital channel instead. Again, I come into the interface, I go to the intent that I want it to occur on, and all I do is select the right type of deflection. In this case, it's a deflection to messaging. I'll show you what's inside that box. It's going to send the person a message saying, thank you for your call, here is a link to our messaging service. Before that, it's going to offer them whether they want to. So it's going to say, due to high demand, would you like to use our instant messaging instead? That's all that needed to be configured. I'm just going to check I've still got an agent available. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to enlist the assistance of one of my colleagues to put a call in and actually be the person who is actually doing the messaging from the other side. So hopefully, Ali, are you on the line?
Yeah, certainly. I'll pop the call through now.
Thank you.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
I'd like to buy some wine.
Due to high demand, there is currently a long wait time. Would you like to use our instant messaging service instead?
Yes, please.
Okay, you will soon receive a text message with a link to our messaging service. Thanks for your call. Goodbye.
Before I'd hung up, I've received the message. Message says, thank you for your call. Here is the link to our messaging service. So I'll just start that.
Meanwhile, I'm the agent. I'm sitting here and I can see a call coming in. I can see that she wants to buy some wine. I'm going to answer that. And I'll say, great. Do you have a favorite? We can see Ali typing back to me. Okay, we'll leave it there. We won't carry on.
Oh.
You can see that what we've done is very effectively move from a voice channel into digital. You'll note that we did send through to the digital channel what was actually requested. That's quite important so that the digital channel can start off in exactly the same way as the voice channel was, with empathy and understanding what the customer need is without having to reiterate it. You'll note also that wasn't actually shown through to the caller. They didn't need it. They know what they said. So I'm going to end that conversation there. Thank you, Ali.
No worries.
Okay, so what we've done so far is we have saved some time inside the call center. We've increased our empathy and our agent engagement. We've removed 1% to 5% of calls through doing some deflections. We've removed, pick a number, 5–10% of calls have been deflected through to your digital channel. What else can we do? How about can we start creating queues so that we have, depending on what the person says, can we send them to a different place inside the call center? Those are called many things in call centers. They might be skill groups, they might be queues, they might be all sorts of things like that. With an oration, you don't have to have a menu structure to do that. You simply start building up a little bit of a question. Depending on what they say to the first question, you can ask a follow-up question to decide what they want. So let's just do that. Again, we'll pick on our wine intent. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this now to a question. Hang on, I've just changed that. So add, ask, here we go. So ask wine. Wine. Right, what I'm going to do is imagine we have a red wine and a white wine department. Don't know why we'd have two departments for those, but imagine we did. We might say, would you like red or white? Okay. That's going to just simply transfer through. So it's going to ask a question and transfer the call through to the call center. I'll deploy it. Make sure we've still got an agent free. Let's put a call in.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
I'd like to get some wine.
Would you like red or white?
Red.
Transferring you now.
So the call arrives and it's actually not recognized it. The joys of live demonstrations, that just proves that this is actually live. You can see it's actually got the word rest. Now, obviously the agent would know what that question was anyway and would know that the person's probably said something like red. Let's go and have a look, because that does happen. And one of the primary things in the system is you don't have to worry about that. If we come across back into the interface and we start looking in here, what we can do is we can look in the system and see what people have said to that question, red or white. And so far someone said rest. Well, we know that people are also going to say the words, here we go. They're going to say the word red and they're going to say the word white. So we'll add those in. Now we've got two of those. What we'll now do is we will assign some intents to those. So we'll assign an intent. Looks like I unfortunately have got one already configured in the system there. I'm going to do a new one. Red. And what we will do is we will actually transfer through to the call center and say transferring you to the red wine department. So transferring you to the red wine department. And we'll go to white and we will similarly take that to white. Here we go. And we will go transferring, and this time we'll go new action, transfer, oops, transferring you to the white wine department. So I've configured both of those. You'll note that rest on here on the interface still looks red, okay? The system doesn't know what to do with it. This is where our interpretation layer, our artificial intelligence layer underneath starts to kick in. And all you do is you tell this, this should have gone to there. So if the system systematically makes a mistake and gets rest instead of red, it doesn't matter because you've told it that that in this context should always go to this intent. I'll save that. Now we've got a bunch of words in there. Now if we deploy all of that, I should have noted, by the way, you noticed while we were going through the previous one, I showed you this screen where we can actually dynamically see exactly what is going on in the system, and you can look at any call that's occurred so far. So let's just actually place another call in.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
I'd like to get some wine, please.
Would you like red or white?
Red.
Transferring you to the red wine department.
You heard it say the right department. And it's come all the way through. There we go. So you can see it coming up. Now, that's taking you through to the specific queue for that particular definition, in this case, the red wine department queue. Now, imagine that the user isn't quite so cooperative. You've already seen what we did with REST, but imagine users don't always follow the rules. If we say to people, do you want red or white? I bet you wouldn't be surprised if someone did the following.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
I'd like to get some wine.
Would you like red or white?
Champagne.
Transferring you now.
Okay. So you can see the system has transferred it through, but it doesn't know what to do with it. It's still shown to the agent, so the agent still knows how to greet the call. But now if we look back in the interface, we can do one of the tasks that the call center manager or the person looking after the system would do on a regular basis. They click on this unassigned response tab. Huh. Okay, we'll look at it in here instead. We can see that champagne, oh, I do apologize. While I was preparing the system in the background, I've actually already configured this one. So all they would do is they would see that word turning up as an unassigned response in here, and they would simply click on it. I'll click on it in here instead. And they would actually click and say, that wants to go to white. And that's all they have to do. Once they click save, now the system knows that if I say champagne, it should go through to white wine. That's a great example of no matter how carefully you try to script anything, users will always say something you don't expect. And the aim of the system here is to surface that to the user so that you can see it. You just say, oh yeah, there's an unexpected word. I want it to do this. So now we've been able to create queues. One great use of that is to assist your training profiles. Typically you have to train agents to come into your call center, and you might have a 3 or 6 week even session to actually bring them up so that they understand every single product before you can put them on the phones. Imagine a world where you can have queues that are dedicated to just single tasks. You train that agent on just that task, and then the only calls that go to them are ones where a person has said something very specific to go there. 2 impacts of that: 1, you can get them on the phone quicker. 2, you can actually reinforce the learning. Imagine doing learning where in the morning you've been through the session, you've learned all about the product. Every single call you get for the rest of the day, the whole afternoon, is exactly that product. That's a very powerful concept. The next thing I'd like to show you is how you can now start to extend it and start to gather additional information. The best way of thinking of this is, how do you do a form fill? So often there are lots of data points that you might want to gather from the caller before you pass it through to the agent. The aim of doing that is to save time so that the agent doesn't have to step you through a list of questions. What we're going to do now is we're going to configure an example of that. I'll just put us back here in main. And what we'll do is we will change this. Instead of asking about red and white, we will now change this again. And I will gather some information. Just put a little bit of data there. And how about we say, what is your favorite one? And we will transfer through to the call center. Okay, so it's now going to ask them what is their favorite wine. It's not going to try and interpret anything with this. It's just going to collect it, and it's going to pass it through in a specific place on the agent desktop.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
I'd like to get some wine.
What is your favourite wine?
1994 Shiraz from South Australia.
Transferring you now.
For those of you that are wine experts, I don't know whether 1994 was a good year. Right, on here you can see these grey boxes down the bottom. Not only have we got the blue box with the full verbatim, but you've also got the info box called out down the bottom. Now, in that particular case, it's still just text. But let's imagine that we wanted to, say, collect an account number or an order number. I'll just show you that you can actually do a full alphanumeric, date of birth, anything you like. So let's just change that question now so that it actually makes sense. While I do, you can imagine that the saving in time in the call center for every one of these information collect blocks can be something like 5 or 10 seconds. Now, 5 or 10 seconds in a contact center is a huge amount of time to be able to save per call. So in this case, let's change this to, please say your order number and date of birth. Let's deploy it. Go back to being the agent. Let's have a go.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
I'd like to get a bottle of wine, please.
Please say your order number and date of birth.
ABC 123456 3rd of November 1982.
Transferring you now.
Okay, and what you can see down there in the box, in the info one box, you can see that it's got ABC 123456 3rd of November 1982. Not my real date of birth, by the way. The amount of time saved by doing those sorts of information captures can be huge. It also means that you can take all of that identification and verification away from the agent. You could use those boxes to, for example, say, what's your account number? And then the next box say, and what's your date of birth? And the next box say, and what's your address? And all you do is present that information through to the agent, and the agent confirms, quickly looking in their system, did all that match, and says yes. So they don't actually have to ask you those questions as they do traditionally today. Again, in terms of time and motion, most contact centers, we find that identification and verification step takes up to 45 seconds in total. And you're able to save the majority of that by doing this process. The final thing I'd like to show you is, so far, all we've done is actually take the call and deliver it through to the call center, but could we fully automate it instead? So what we've got is we've got a range of self-service options. The one I'm going to show you today is the store locator. So for those of you in Melbourne, I do apologize. I do know you probably can't step out and go and actually get anything from the shop at the moment. Sorry about that. But let's have a look and see if we can tell you where the store is. So we'll go to the wine and we will change this now to ask for store details. Now, I'm going to pick on a random store here. So let's say there's a wine shop, Dan Murphy's. I'm looking for the company name Dan Murphy's, and all you have to configure in the system in order for it to do your store locator is the name of the company, the name of the website that it has. And that's it. And all it's going to say then is, let me find a wine store. What city or suburb? Okay. If it succeeds, we will, even if it succeeds, we'll transfer you through to the call center anyway. Let's deploy it. Right. Now let's try.
Welcome to the wine store. How can I help you?
I'd like to get a bottle of wine.
Let me find a wine store. What suburb and city?
Bondi Junction, Sydney.
I found a matching store. Dan Murphy's Double Bay, 1 Kiora Road, Double Bay, New South Wales. It opens at 9 a.m. and closes at 9 p.m. The phone number is 1300 723 388. Transferring you now.
So just to reinforce how little I had to do to make that actually work as the user, was I only had to put in the website name. That's actually using the power of some of the things that are out there in Google. So that's using Google Places as one of the driving forces behind it, to be able to actually gather all that information. And then we've done all the hard work of taking all that information and turning it into a dialogue for you. It's a great example of something that's very easy to use, can be applied to any business. I could have typed anything in there and it would have worked. So with that, I think we've seen most of the features that are available in the system. There is a lot more. There are all sorts of fancy bits and pieces around how you can keep it up to date. So you might actually go to the intents and you could look down and you can see in here all of the things that people have actually said that have been interpreted by it as being that intent. You can also see the language that has been actually tagged as being part of it. Very powerful. You've seen the sessions tab. You've seen that you can actually go in. You might go in and actually say, here we go, let's have a look. Let's find a CLI for a particular phone number. I want to find that telephone call. You find the telephone call and up it pops and you can see it all here. And if you really want to, you can even, I don't know whether this will actually come through your speakers. I hope it will. I can play what actually was actually heard by the system.
1994 Shiraz from South Australia.
Okay, so you've got a full record of what the people said. The final tab to show you here is reporting. You'll remember that my example of my contact center manager, their final nightmare situation was, what are the top 10 intents that are coming into the call center? Why are people calling me today? The reporting tab in here gives you access to do all of that. So if I come in here and I look in the top 10 intents, oops, sorry, wrong button. And I look just for the first question.
Might have to go into the banking demo to get the data through because we cleared out the demo environment.
Thank you, Mark. I will pop across here so that you can see a live example where there is some data. The system does grab the data, but it's grabbing it through on an hourly update at the moment. So here we go on intent detail, no, on top 10 intents. Never do live demonstrations. There we go. What you should be seeing here is you should be seeing some nice pretty charts that actually show you some examples of calls that have come in. It shows all of the intents that people have said and a pie chart showing you what are the reasons why they've called. That sort of detail allows the contact center manager to, on an hourly or daily basis, be able to have a look and see what are the reasons and start to formulate how they lay their contact center out differently as a result. Come back over here. You can also configure a range of things like the voice. So for example, I could go to configuration, I can change the text-to-speech voice, and I can select from any one of a range of different voices that are available.
If there is a need, of course, to load your brand talent, we can do that as well, and it's supported. And I'll talk a little bit about some anecdotes of some live deployments that we've gone through in a little bit. But what we've actually found is people are more than okay traversing through the text-to-speech voice, even coming from a professionally recorded brand voice and then going back into the call center.
Thank you, Mark. So I think that's most of what I wanted to show you in terms of the actual caller interface. I hope you can see that it's relatively straightforward to use. It had absolutely no IT input in there at all. You didn't need to have any kind of specialist knowledge. You didn't need to understand speech recognition. You didn't need any particular specific skills. You've seen how you can deflect calls. You've seen how you can save time. You've seen how you can form fill. You've even seen how you can actually do a full self-service. Now, with that, I can see that we have a Q&A capability in here. So if anybody would like to now ask any questions, please pop them in the Q&A and we'll start peeling those off. While we wait for those to come in, Mark, I'll hand over to you. You just wanted to talk about some anecdotes there.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks, Mike. Not a lot to add really, except to say that we are now live in 4 major retailers. So we do know how this thing comes out in the wash. We know all the nuances. We know how it operates under duress. And so it's been a wonderful experience over the last sort of 4 months, taking this to the Australian and New Zealand public. And our call center managers are absolutely thrilled with its use. They're finding new ways to use it every day. I mentioned before, traversing through the text-to-speech voice is actually no problem for any of our call centers, though we do support brand recorded voices. Yeah, and I just wanted to share, it's been a wonderful experience going live with these centers. Finally, and I think I really wanted to reiterate the fact, and I'm sure you all agree, it's very simple and easy to configure, as Mike has done in sort of about 40 minutes now. What we actually do when we deploy these is, though we can grab a whole lot of call recordings and pass them through the recognizer and start to configure the call center before going live, believe it or not, our preferred method is to plumb this in with no knowledge whatsoever. And I just want to touch on chatbots in general. And most people's experiences with chatbots really are based around web or text-based chatbots. This is an IVR-based product. It's designed specifically to facilitate your voice interactions through your IVR. And rather than loading a whole lot of knowledge up and configuring your bot over weeks and months leading into the deployment, as I said, we just like to go live with an empty shell, and as those customer interactions come through, we know that the default route will be in place. We know they're going to graciously or gracefully go through to the agent, and we can just sort of monitor it. And within about an hour, you have, 60–70% of the kinds of things that people are going to say to the IVR, and you can already start to configure intents and associated actions with those. So the key point being really is implementation is an absolute breeze, no matter what platform you're incorporating it into.
And that touches on what platforms it's available for. So this is fully available for Genesys Cloud, fully available for Amazon Connect. In both cases, what you're seeing here is fully SaaS delivered, so software as a service, rather than being on premise. It's all out of the cloud.
Yeah, so we did have a question. Mike, I'm going to throw this one to you that came up in the chat. Instead of routing to a digital channel, would it be possible to ask the customer for a Shiraz and check stock and completely place an order autonomously through the system? Absolutely.
So the way we do that is you hand from what Oration does, which is actually gather with a caller what do they want, and then we hand into a self-service bot. You've seen an example of one we've built for Store Locator. We build other ones specifically for clients, or indeed we can hand you over to your own development team to be able to do those if you wish to. So the reason we do that handing over is, in order to check your stock, we have to have your APIs. And so in order to keep this front end really simple, we actually delineate very clearly that find out what they want and then hand it into the self-service. What we do recommend is that you actually pass the verbatim into the self-service so it knows what was actually asked for and doesn't have to ask for them again.
Okay, and just a follow-up question to that, I think we actually touched on this. Is it on-prem or cloud-based? So we support a range of agent desktop platforms. You've seen Genesys Cloud today, or formerly called Genesys Pure Cloud. And obviously that is has a range of cloud-based options. This is a application that does live in the cloud itself as well. Mike's mentioned we support Amazon Connect, which is wholly cloud-based as well. And we are working to implement this for Genesys Pure Engage as well, which is a common on-prem solution.
So I can see there is a question in the Q&A, but unfortunately on my Zoom, it's not actually allowing me to open it. I don't know, Mark, are you able to open that question?
Yes, follow-up question to the initial one. Is it possible to have a cross-channel integration with Convey? Like integrate with source systems to perform ID checks? Caller info and then hand over to RPA or other tech.
Yeah, so that's the same as the previous one, which is what we do is we collect the data inside our bit and then we hand it to the next layer that actually does that integration. We are actually bringing out very shortly features to do that within the tool. At the moment, it is actually hand it through to the next layer. There's a range of good tools for doing that.
Another follow-up question, can Convey help upsell, cross-sell products?
I'm going to ask whoever sent that through just to give me more definition as to what they mean.
If we mean Probe, absolutely, as a business processing outsource function. If you mean the Oration product, is that what you mean?
So whoever, is that Vibhushnan?
Yep, we might be able to come back to that.
More into what you're looking for. Okay.
No.
One way the system can be used is if somebody has actually asked for something and you know you don't have it. So say they've called in and they've said they want to have wine, but you're not actually a wine shop. You can actually say, hey, look, actually, would you like to speak to someone about some whiskey? So you can actually use that to actually, you know that they've asked for something you haven't got, and you can actually pass them across to something that you have. Yeah, absolutely. So what's just been asked there is, can we actually say, when they say, do they want a bottle of wine, we could actually do the equivalent of the good old Macca's, would you like fries with that? So you could say, please no, all wine sales come with Nobby's nuts for free now. That sort of thing can be coded in as the banner before you pass them through. And you can change that banner on a minute by minute basis. So it's completely dynamic.
There was a question. It was a question
very
about.
Good question. Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to reiterate: this is an absolute software as a service model, so it's a transactional model for this, and it lends itself into that situation with its easy setup. So absolutely transactional.
So the next question that's come through is, can Convey integrate into a CRM database, Salesforce, for example, so that the customer details can be preloaded for the agent? The answer to that is absolutely. So the integration that you saw on the soft phone is all done inside the Genesis layer. So we can provide services to actually create that soft phone in a way that talks direct to Salesforce or any other CRM. Those are professional services that are offered alongside the standard service. Oh, here we go. How does it fare with other accents? Has just popped in over the top. Extremely well. So the recognizer that is in there, the one you're seeing there is Google. It also uses Amazon Transcribe if you're using the Amazon stack. Both recognizers are incredibly good at picking the accents for the local area. Another lovely thing it does is actually if someone does happen to have come into it and started speaking French, it actually does a reasonable job of picking up the fact that it was French. That allows you then to actually, in a multilingual context, be able to actually take them through to a different part of your call center. I wouldn't recommend you start writing the thing completely in French at that point, but you could actually see someone appears to have said French, or I'm from New Zealand. We get a lot of callers calling in, talking in Te Reo Maori. We can spot that it is actually doing that and take them through to the particular part of the call center that can handle that. Very powerful feature. It does actually also, you can change the recognizer language. So the recognizer can actually be configured to be genuinely in French or Italian or Spanish or whatever you want. Any of the languages that are available in the Google set when it's the Google recognizer, or the Amazon set when it's in that way. So the next question that's come through is it possible to integrate surveys, NPS, CSAT, etc.? Currently, most surveys, we have been looking at this as a potential feature, and very happy, by the way, after this to receive any feedback from anybody who's feature suggestions for us. CSATs and NPS are typically done at the end of the call. So what the system is capable of doing is asking, would you like to? And feeding that through to a system that can then force the call back. But it's very much a part of the platform rather than part of Oration to actually do that part.
Incidentally, sending an SMS is a core part of the platform and not strictly tied to, for example, a web chat deflect. So you can actually fire away an SMS as a call comes through Oration that could land on a CSAT type survey, for example, on the web.
That's a great idea. There's another question come in from Jody asking, can we link to a CRM? And again, we do that through handing the call. You can do it at one or two levels. Either you can do it still within the IVR by using Lambda calls and things like that within there. Again, it's professional services to actually do that. Or you could do it actually at the desktop, adjusting the agent desktop so that it can actually talk to the CRM before it presents information. Typically that's used so that when the call pops up, instead of it popping up as you saw, just showing me information, it pops up and actually pre-populates the CRM screen already. Something like Salesforce, that's very easy to do.
So if you already have an integration with your agent desktop, be it AWS Connect or Genesys Cloud, those services can access the data that we're passing back into those agent desktops as well. So any kind of automation or reading of that data can be done.
Thank you for your comment, Jody. Okay, I think with that, we'll start wrapping up. So what next for you? You've seen how it can reduce handle times. You've seen how it can increase self-service, provide targeted banners that are only played to people who actually ask for that thing, not to everybody. How you can facilitate digital channel shift, how you can improve agent and customer engagement, and even how you can improve your speed to competency. If you are interested in taking a closer look, Oration is available on AWS Marketplace. It's a simple subscription service on there. So just click to subscribe if you have an Amazon account. Or alternatively, if you're a Probe customer, reach out to your Probe account manager, and I'm sure they would love to have a chat to you about how it could work inside your Probe contact center. Or if you would just like further information, please email Mark at the email address that's shown on the screen.